With NerdOnTheStreet.com, I'm Jacob Kaufman, and here's your Nerd on the Street news for the week of 16th November 2014. Starting off today, we have some news that kind of hits close to home for me. As an independent content producer on the internet, I have certain role models that I look up to. People who I say I want to be exactly as successful and exactly as innovative as them. And one of those people who I look up to is Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth is the company that really revolutionized the idea of the machinima. And a machinima is when you use a video game for animating an entertainment series. Rooster Teeth is well known for their series Red vs. Blue, which was the original machinima series that made them popular, as well as their gaming channel Achievement Hunter and their popular Let's Play series. Ever since I found out about Rooster Teeth, they've been an inspiration for me because it started out as just a few guys in a spare bedroom making a machinima series, and now it's a whole company, a ton of animators, there's writers and producers, and they make all kinds of content. They do live action stuff, they do animated series. Well, last week, Rooster Teeth got bought by Fullscreen. We haven't actually gotten much information about the acquisition yet. A few of Rooster Teeth's key personnel wrote in their journals about the acquisition, and it was an acquisition. It's kind of weird. They're trying to spin it off like it's going to be, a great thing. Bernie called it an alliance with Fullscreen. Matt said that Rooster Teeth was teaming up with Fullscreen. Barbara also called it teaming up. And it's not a partnership. Fullscreen acquired Rooster Teeth. Fullscreen owns Rooster Teeth at this point. Now, all of the employees are saying that they're still going to be producing content the way they've always been producing content. But, even though it's that way now, even though they're completely independent now, it just kind of scares a lot of the fans because theoretically in the future, Fullscreen could step in and demand some creative control over Rooster Teeth's content. Honestly, I don't think that Rooster Teeth's content is going to go down in production value. I think it's going to go up. But I kind of think it's disappointing because Rooster Teeth, even though their content is great, I was not just impressed with their content. What was even more impressive than their content, for me, was the fact that they were an independent company who was that successful. Individual sponsors were paying them. They had that Kickstarter. I think it was Kickstarter. I don't think it was Indiegogo. They had that Kickstarter campaign last summer for their movie, and now a lot of people are saying, hey, wait a minute. I donated to your Kickstarter. I've been paying you as a sponsor for years, and now you're owned by a multi-million-dollar company. So now people are saying, hey, what's the deal? Why did you ask us for donations if now you're being acquired and you can do whatever the heck you want? And now you have the money to do whatever you want. Rooster Teeth is no longer fan-funded. They are now funded by a corporation. Well, Fullscreen, I think, is a private company. I don't think it's actually, publicly. It doesn't have stocks or anything, but still, it's owned by a large company, and that large company owns a lot of other content producers as well. Rooster Teeth used to be the exception. They were an independent company, and now they're not. Now they're just another company. They really lost a lot of their uniqueness because, you can find all kinds of people producing content online. Finding people who produce content as successful as Rooster Teeth's content who aren't owned by large companies, that's a challenge. So yeah, I think I was lucky to find Rooster Teeth around when I did, and I'm still going to try and emulate what they had going for them when I found them. But yeah, they've moved to a large new office. They've been hiring dozens of new people for their new series as they're making feature-length movies now. They're just not the independent company that I looked up to, and that sentiment is mirrored in lots of other people. It should be noted that AT&T has stakes in Fullscreen as well, so it's not just one company just for content production. There are larger companies who own the content production company that owns all the other companies. So yeah, like I said, I have no doubt they're going to be producing the same content they've always produced, but they're not doing it by themselves anymore. Now this prompted me to kind of go and look at some of the other large companies. Everyone knows about the company Machinima, not the genre Machinima, but the company who named themselves after the genre. But there are some other content production companies that are, big on the YouTube videos and things, who are also owned by large companies. There's a company called Maker Studios that supports a lot of the big channels on YouTube, and they were bought by Disney just last March. And I actually didn't realize this, but 2 years ago, the Discovery Channel bought Revision 3, and Revision 3 was another internet television company. So yeah, on the one hand, it's great that these content producers are obviously thriving because they're getting bought left and right. But yeah, do we really want all of our entertainment being produced by the same large companies? Disney, the Discovery Channel, AT&T. So yeah, that's interesting. If you don't care about it, sorry I spent a few minutes on it, but like I said, a lot of content producers care about that stuff. Facebook says that they are no longer a place for promotional posts. If you have a Facebook page for your business, Facebook will be dampening traffic on your customers' news feeds. And I think that this is kind of interesting. Obviously, I think everything that I'm talking about here is interesting, that's why I'm talking about it. But when I say interesting, I'm sarcastically saying I think that this is dumb. Just a general rule for when I say something's interesting. But yeah, Facebook's new decisions on this are interesting. They say that customers don't like promotional posts from pages. However, they say that customers are okay with paid advertisements. And you can probably see where this is going. Facebook wants you to pay for things if you're going to be promoting yourself on Facebook. Is this going to stop me from posting my YouTube channel every now and then? No, although I actually never post my YouTube channel on my personal Facebook account because I know how annoying it is because other people do it all the time. But Nerd on the Street has a Facebook page and it will continue to be active the way it's always been active. Here's my problem with Facebook's research that concludes that customers don't like pages posting promotional things. If customers don't like pages posting promotional things, they can unlike the pages. And if they unlike the pages, they will no longer get posts from those pages. If you're following a page that's doing just nothing but promotional posts, unfollow the page. I don't get why Facebook doesn't understand that because they're the ones who made the mechanism. I don't get why readers don't understand that because they're the ones using the mechanism. And to get those promotional posts in the first place, that means that the readers had to go and like the pages in the first place. So I would much rather see promotional posts from people who I liked than from random companies who paid Facebook to promote to me. It should be noted that if there's a specific company you don't want to see ads from, then you can hide all ads from a company and don't tell anyone, because my business really relies right now on advertising heavily. In the future it might not, but right now it does. And every single time I see a sponsored post in my Facebook feed, what I do is I hide all ads from that company. And I know if Facebook gets wind of this, if lots of people start doing this, then they'll probably take away the ability to do it. But then at least we can complain that they took away the ability to do it. Right now, whenever a company posts a sponsored ad, like they paid to put an ad on my news feed, I always hide all ads from that company. And Facebook eventually just runs out of ads to show me. Not that they have any shortage of companies paying to place ads, but they run out of companies paying to place ads that meet my criteria. And it's worked right now. Right now I haven't gotten any sponsored posts in a while, even though I had quite a few over the summer. So yeah, try doing that if you don't like the idea of paid ads on your Facebook feed. Hide all ads from all companies. Like I said, once lots of people start doing that, then I'm sure they'll remove the functionality, because they have to make money somehow. I get that. I get that they have to make money somehow. But really, if you're following a page, you want to see the posts from that page, whether they're promotional or not. So another thing that I always do is I make sure, once you go to your Facebook homepage, click on the little drop-down arrow over in the news feed in the sidebar. There's news feed and then there's a drop-down arrow. Click on that. Click on sort by most recent. Don't sort by top stories. Top stories is code for whatever Facebook thinks you want to see. In my experience so far, most recent will show you everything, whether Facebook thinks you want to see it or not. And it will sort it not by how many likes it has, not by how good Facebook thinks it is, but it will sort it by when it was posted. So yeah, try sort your news feed by most recent and block every ad that you see. Don't use ad block though. Use Facebook's mechanism for it, because like I said, this company, this channel right here, requires advertising as well. But we don't put it into your social network. So that's the difference between Facebook and Nerd on the Street, as well as the fact that Facebook actually makes money and Nerd on the Street really doesn't. And people actually go to Facebook's website. But moving on to the next story, speaking of ads officially hit Firefox's new tab page. Now, as soon as I read this story, I did Control-T, checked out my new tab page. There are no ads on my new tab page yet. Now, I talked a while ago about Mozilla's deal with Google expiring, and the deal was Google would pay Mozilla if Mozilla made Google the main search engine in Firefox, the default search engine. That deal was expiring, and obviously Google wasn't planning on renewing it because Google has their own web browser now. So Mozilla needs to find ways to survive, and I really hope they do, because right now it's Firefox and Chrome, and that's it. Opera is pretty much out of the game right now because they're not supporting Linux. Internet Explorer is kind of like Safari. Internet Explorer and Safari are in the same boat. They both work fine, but they're not major players. Don't even ask about any of the desktop environment-specific browsers on Linux because nobody uses Midori, nobody uses Conqueror or Reconq or whatever it's called. It is Firefox and Chrome right now, and also Chromium, but, you know, Chromium, Chrome. There are differences that have to do with licensing, but, you know, if one of them gets the monopoly, they both get the monopoly. So yeah, I'm using Firefox right now. I totally could switch back to Chrome because functionally Chrome is fine, but I'm using Firefox for privacy reasons because I don't like Google tracking every single thing that I type. Not in like forms and stuff, I'm talking in like the URL bar and when I'm searching things. I'm using DuckDuckGo with Mozilla Firefox just because I don't like companies tracking what I type. Not for any specific reason, but just because that's how I think that my computer should work, is I should be able to search for things without being tracked. So yeah, like I said, I don't see any ads in my new tab page right now. It should show up in the speed dial function. You know, you've got all of your recent sites that you've been to. Well, it's just going to put some sponsored sites in between some of your recent sites, and it will say sponsored by them, so you know which ones are there because of sponsorships. If you want to disable them, you can click on the gear icon in the top right, and enhanced is the option that will get you ads. If you select classic, you will not get ads anymore. I'm going to leave mine on enhanced because at least I know that with Firefox giving me ads, they are not going to be ads given to me by placement or by targeting. There just happens to have been placed there. Whereas on Google Chrome, if I was given ads, then it would be ads given to me because of my browser history. If there's a specific ad you don't want to see in your quick dial setting thing, you can go to the tile that is the ad that you don't want to see and click the X in the upper right corner. That will no longer show up in your speed dial. Oh, it should be noted that Mozilla is tracking how many people are clicking these ads and possibly some other things depending on your tracking settings in Firefox's settings. So check out your settings and yeah, just be aware of that. If I click on an advertisement, then obviously I'm understanding that they're going to track that. Speaking of tracking, AT&T stops using undeletable phone tracking IDs. So it seems that for a little bit, AT&T was assigning a tracking ID to every phone, and then whenever that phone accessed the internet, then this tracking number was somehow connected to that, and then AT&T was tracking what everyone was doing through these tracking numbers for a certain amount of time. Well, they stopped doing that. They say that they may start doing it again in the future, but if they do start doing it again, then customers will be able to opt out of it. We'll see how long that lasts. Verizon is using the tracking numbers still. They say they're using them to identify users' behavior and offer advertisers insights about the users. And of course, just like every company ever that tracks anything, they say, don't worry, the data is not personally identifiable. I don't care if it's personally identifiable or not. I don't want you tracking my stuff. Verizon does offer its customers the option to opt out of the program, but even if you opt out, it doesn't remove the tracking ID, so I don't know what opting out would even mean in that case. US courts have ruled that private companies cannot seize country top-level domains. Alright, so first let me figure out who was suing. Alright, they're not giving any names, but apparently some people in a US law firm were suing the countries of Iran, Syria, and North Korea. As a lawsuit against them, they were suing them because they were state sponsors of terrorism. So first, I want to say I didn't know you could sue for that sort of thing. I would like to suggest we all sue states for that. Perhaps a class action lawsuit? You know, if they actually did anything. I'm not aware that they've done anything recently. Well, I know that there's stuff going on. I don't want to get into Middle Eastern politics in this video right now. So, okay, I understand that. People were suing countries for terrorism, and as part of the financial reimbursement, they wanted to seize the top-level domains of those countries. So the United States top-level domain is .us. The United Kingdom, I know there's .co.uk, I don't know if there's a just .uk. But yeah, Iran's top-level domain was .ir, Syria's was .sy, and North Korea's was .kp. Wasn't aware that North Korea used the internet. Yeah, they wanted to take those away, but the thing was, those countries didn't own the top-level domains, obviously. Nobody owns the internet, you might have heard that expression. But actually, there is a group that does own top-level domains, and that is ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. ICANN is basically the government of the internet, but they're not really, they don't govern. They just kind of organized to make sure that everyone's on the same page with like standards and things. So if you've ever bought a domain name, then you'll probably notice that you've got whatever your registrar wants to charge you, like $10 a year, $5 a month, depending on your registrar, it'll be different. And then there are those ICANN fees. And the ICANN fee is going to be the same no matter what your registrar is, and it's basically like a tax. It's like an internet tax. You pay that ICANN fee, and ICANN uses that money to keep itself alive so that it can make sure that domain names belong to who they're supposed to belong to. That way, AT&T can't just go and say, okay, we own this domain name now because we're an ISP and we can resolve that domain to whatever we want. No, they can't do that because ICANN specifies, actually, this person's registered this domain with us, therefore it has to resolve to this IP. In very simple terms. They do lots of other things too, but that's kind of the gist of it, just in a quick summary. So I'm sure the countries might have been concerned about this. Probably not, actually. I don't think that anyone in Iran, Syria, or North Korea was concerned about some US legal people getting a hold of their top-level domains. But ICANN was concerned because if US courts were able to seize top-level domains from ICANN, then they could start seizing .com, they could seize .net, which means that private companies or the United States government could just be in charge of the internet, just like that. So yeah, the ICANN was saying that they could not seize top-level domains because they weren't actually property. And it's funny, the courts actually disagreed. The courts said, no, you're wrong, they actually are property, but still we can't seize them because something has to do with contracts. Rights arising under a contract cannot be seized as part of a judgment, so that's a precedent now. Or it was already a precedent or a law, and the court just found that top-level domains are part of a contract. So yeah, good to hear that the internet, for now, is going to continue operating how it's always operated. Of course, there's that whole net neutrality thing that might change the way the internet operates. AT&T is actually responding to that, not by pushing one way or the other, which I'm sure they are pushing one way or the other. They're probably pushing against net neutrality. However, they're actually doing something to show that they're pushing that way. They are pausing the build out of their fiber network until the net neutrality rules get established. So they were building fiber networks in 100 cities, and I wish that there would be fiber in St. Louis, but of course, what's ever happened that's exciting in St. Louis other than the whole thing called the World's Fair? St. Louis doesn't really have any big tech companies. They don't really have any big companies at all. I mean, we have, like, Emerson, we've got some engineering things, but even those are semi-regional. So yeah, I doubt that St. Louis is a priority for internet companies. But that wasn't even what I was talking about. I was talking about the fact that AT&T was building fiber networks in 100 cities, and now they are saying, we're actually going to pause this and see how this whole net neutrality thing plays out. And if AT&T is allowed to sell premier access to whatever companies it wants to, then it might continue building those networks. And if the US government decides to seize control of, net neutrality, then AT&T might not continue building those fiber networks. Now, some people are actually accusing AT&T of using net neutrality as an excuse. AT&T is not actually under a contractual obligation to build these fiber networks. They just said, oh, we're going to build these fiber networks. Isn't that great? So some people are saying that AT&T might not have had plans to build those networks at all, and now they're just using net neutrality as an excuse to get out of it, because they either don't have the resources or they changed their minds about how good of an idea it might be. So yeah, I'm kind of split on the whole net neutrality thing. On the one hand, it would be bad for companies to sell companies faster access to the internet, because small companies such as Nerd on the Street would not have that faster internet, so Nerd on the Street's website would be slower than other companies' websites. On the other hand, if the US government is mandating net neutrality, then they now have the definition of neutrality that they get to make, and the US government is obviously not neutral about anything. Once the FCC is able to mandate things because of net neutrality, then there won't be a large way to go before they start censoring things, and it might come up slowly. They might just start censoring small things, illegal things, and then frowned upon things, and before you know it, you can use your imagination to fill that in, because this isn't a conspiracy show either. But yeah, the way I see it, I'm screwed either way. Honestly, I don't think that the way that they're saying they're going to do net neutrality is going to work very well, classifying it as a telecommunications company, because those laws that they're using for telecommunications companies are massively outdated. If they want to use government to mandate net neutrality, then they need to write some new laws. They need to bring in people from tech companies who can tell them, things that actually matter right now. But like I said, that's another video, which I've already made the net neutrality video, but, my thoughts have possibly changed since then, don't really know. So yeah, I don't know which way I would go on net neutrality. Neither does Google, but Google doesn't really care, because whichever way net neutrality goes, Google wins. Net neutrality is bad for ISPs and good for content providers, allegedly. And allegedly, an unregulated internet is bad for content providers and good for ISPs. Well, Google is both an ISP and a content provider. They provide a lot of the backbone of the internet, and now they're starting to provide the front end as well. With their whole Google Fiber thing, they're no longer just servers, they are now plugging into people's homes. Google, please come to St. Louis. Please come to St. Louis. Yeah, basically this article is talking about no matter what the FCC decides, Google is going to profit from it, because if the FCC decides that ISPs are allowed to sell faster access, then Google can start selling faster access to certain companies. Even if the FCC decides to start doing net neutrality, then Google can still move forward with their fiber rollouts because they'll be earning even more money on their content, or at least as much as they are now. And nobody's going to have better access to Google as an ISP's customers than Google's servers, which include YouTube, may I remind you. This article also talks about the fact that even though net neutrality is a good thing for small companies, the laws that they're trying to use are massively outdated and would give the FCC too much control. It's not black and white, it's not regulated or unregulated. The next US Congress is expected to initiate a vast rewrite of the laws that they're going to be using to regulate the internet. Why don't they rewrite the laws before they put the internet on those? That would make a lot of people more comfortable with the new powers of the government. Speaking of Google, Google Play Music subscribers will get free access to YouTube Music, and YouTube Music is now a thing. Basically, for some reason, YouTube thinks that people are willing to pay money to listen to music videos on YouTube, even though you can watch them for free if you watch ads, of course, because they are monetized, which allows content creators who are making music videos to put those onto YouTube without losing money. Right now, I thought that the situation we had was fine. I mean, I can watch music videos for free, and the content producers still get paid for it because of the ads they put on them. YouTube Music, basically, it's ad-free if you're paying for YouTube Music, and you can watch offline. You can already watch offline and without ads if you use one of those YouTube to MP3 or, YouTube downloaders that they have online. I don't do that, and I don't do that because I don't want them to take those YouTube downloaders offline, because I use those for videos I actually find important to save, not just for, music videos or whatever. But yeah, if you pay for Google Play Music, which Google Play Music is, you pay a monthly fee and you can access, as long as you're paying that monthly fee, all of the content available on Google Play, all of the music content available on Google Play, not all of the apps and stuff. If you're paying for Google Play, then you will also get free access to YouTube Music, at least while it's in beta. Researchers at IBM found a significant vulnerability in Microsoft Windows that's been there since Windows 95, and yes, it was still there today. It's finally been patched. It started in Internet Explorer 3.0, still in Internet Explorer 11. It wasn't actually in Internet Explorer itself, it was in code that Internet Explorer relied on within Windows. They don't give way too much detail. In the original article, they've got a technical description of what it does, which I'm not really sure how to read. This exploit has been around ever since Windows 95, like I said, and it's 2014, so 19 years, and it allows the hacker to gain control of the computer, basically is what I'm reading here. It's got a whole bunch of really good, if you're into Windows programming, then you can go here, or if you're into, programming at all, you can go to the article, will be in the description, just like all the articles I talk about, and you can read about the technical stuff involved in this. But yeah, serious vulnerability. It's funny that they just now got around to patching it, although there is no evidence that it was ever exploited. Allowed the hacker to compromise some data and take over the computer potentially, so that's fun. Ever since Internet Explorer 3.0, and it was still there in 11.0, wow. Even though Windows has problems like that, it's still a leading operating system, and some of the hobbyist operating systems right now are facing a crisis. What, Linux? No, Linux is not a hobbyist operating system. Linux is a mainstream operating system. Now I'm talking about operating systems that are not one of the big three. Operating systems that you probably haven't even heard of before. One of them is called ReactOS, and I made a video about it last week. ReactOS aims to be a replacement, a drop-in replacement for Windows. It's supposed to be compatible with Windows. That means that you're supposed to be able to use Windows programs and Windows drivers and Windows anything on ReactOS, and ReactOS is supposed to trick the programs into thinking that they are on Windows. As I mentioned in the video, they've been in alpha stage for about 20 years now, and they're just at 0.3 right now. If they had really shaped up their game, and if they had released version 1.0 when Windows XP went on its whole no more security updates thing, that would have been a huge marketing opportunity for them. They could have gained so much popularity. Hey, your Windows XP is expired. Don't want to buy the new version of Windows? Use ReactOS instead. But they just weren't ready. Now, ReactOS is doing something promising with their next version of the operating system. It's called ReactOS Community Edition, and it's funny. ReactOS's website looks as old as its operating system looks, but you click on the link to look at the section of their website devoted to the Community Edition, and it's like, boom, you just went from the 90s to 2014. They've got a whole responsive, beautiful web design, not their whole website, just the section for the Community Edition. So yeah, I think that what they should do is drop whatever other edition they were working on and make the Community Edition the regular edition, and make the Community Edition website the regular website. But as I said in the video, that kind of stuff takes time, and by the time they get this thing working, by the time they get ReactOS stable, Windows is probably going to be nothing like ReactOS anymore anyway. The other operating system that they talked about in this article is called Haiku, and it is not supposed to be compatible with anything else. It's just supposed to be another option for an operating system. It is currently in Alpha 4. But yeah, Haiku is kind of like ReactOS. It's really not matured much in the 14 years it's been around. And its predecessor was created 17 years ago, so yeah, really not looking good for that project either. But I mean, do those projects need to be used by a lot of people to be considered successful? For people who want to learn about how operating systems work, who maybe don't want to dissect Windows or Linux or Mac, because those are really grown-up operating systems that have a lot of stuff built on top of them. For people who want to take a look at a simpler operating system, then projects like these are kind of helpful. So yeah, they are certainly not going to be on the desktop of the consumer anytime soon, but they are probably not going to die. They'll probably just stay in their half-dead phase that they're in right now. So yeah, not really any news there, more like a lack of news in terms of hobbyist operating systems, but it might be fun to check some of those alternate operating systems out if you're just looking for a weekend project. Pretty big show today, lots of stories. Let me know what you think of them at the forums at nerdonthestreet.com. We also have our subreddit, nerdonthestreet.reddit.com. Let me check and see if anything's been posted there. Nope, of course, nothing has been posted there. So I'll tell you what, we have a forum on the website now just for this show, so Reddit wasn't really catching on, so I'm just going to find some other use for the subreddit or something. But for now, if you want to contribute information to this show, if you want to submit stories to us, if you find an article throughout the week that you think is interesting, go on the forums at nerdonthestreet.com. Just sign up for our website. You can leave a post in the Nerd on the Street news forum, and we will cover it. And you can also comment on posts other people are leaving. And while you're on our website, you can find all of our other content there as well. But for now, that's all I have. I'm Jacob Kaufman, I'm Nerd on the Street, and I will see you guys later. See ya.